In the studio, a great friend of the community and a wonderful organization represented by its chairman, Jim Stern, but many, many others who have, over the course of the past several years, gotten involved to bring truth in taxation to Albemarle County, the Albemarle Truth in Taxation Alliance. Jim Stern, welcome to the Schilling Show.
Good to be here, Rob.
Before we get into specifics about what's going on right now in Albemarle County, I know you had a chance to hear Wayne Allen Root. And do you draw any parallels between what you heard him saying on the national level and what goes on locally?
Oh, absolutely. They control us. They control us, and they control the purse strings, and they will vote themselves raises and benefits, and it won't stop until we step in and stop them.
That's the unfortunate part is, governance. You want somebody to govern, to put the brakes on. When they put a governor on a car to govern the speed limit, it's to hold it back. And so you would hope that the people there had some temperance and could self-govern, but it's simply not the case.
And this is right from the county's website. The average weekly wage in Albemarle County in 2010 was $900. A public administrator, $1,058. And a private administrator, $596 a week. So they're paid almost double what the private sector would pay for the same job.
And it's amazing to me how this goes on. And I've had the conversation here, and I even had it with Ken Boyd in the past, where I said, hey, why don't you put these jobs up to bid? If you've got somebody who's a spokesperson for the county, and I don't know what her numbers are, but in the city we knew there was a guy making $95,000 a year to do what the private sector pays $45,000 for. And so why don't you put these jobs out to bid? And I'll bet you that you have this huge pool of qualified people who would take a lot of these jobs because they're unemployed or underemployed right now, and you'd save a boatload of money for the county. And the response was, well, if we do that, when times get better, we'll lose all of our good people.
And we don't talk about total cost of ownership. We talk about their salary, average salary being about $51,000 a year. We don't talk about the $22,000 in benefits that go on top of that. So you cry poor and getting paid so little. And then you add that benefits package, and all of a sudden, it's a Cadillac plan.
It used to be that people took jobs with government because they were guaranteed some greater degree of security, and the salaries were less. And maybe that was a decent trade-off. I mean, obviously, in some of these positions, you need people working there, although government is far bigger than it needs to be or should be. But now you get the best of all worlds. You get job security, basically hired for life in many of these positions. You get platinum benefits and above-average salaries, sometimes, like you mentioned, twice as much as the market will bear. And these people protect themselves.
They get to prepare the data so they can hide whatever they want and spin it any way that they want. A lot of this we're discovering is just a ruse. They tell you one thing. Our example last year, highly qualified teachers. We need but that means nothing. The words are empty. And there's so many examples like that.
And so we go on, and this is what I've seen happening. I don't know the numbers again in Albemarle County, but in the city of Charlottesville, with roughly the same population, they were running the city back in the late 60s under Mayor Dutch Vogt with about 300 employees, now ballooned well over 1,000, 3 times as many. So they grow this government bureaucracy in order that they can buy voters and keep this establishment in power. It's exactly what's going on, and it's very hard to fight it.
From 2000 to 2010 in Albemarle County, we only grew 1.6% in population. Mm-hmm. So you'd only need 1.6% more employers, maybe 5% more employees, maybe.
Right,
we double in size. It's exponential the way this thing is growing.
So here's the problem. You talk about truth in taxation, and yet we have what I think is a very dishonest taxation system in Virginia, which is maybe another topic broadly for another show, but it has to do with real estate taxation. In other words, when the property assessments went up, the counselors or the supervisors threw their hands in the air and said, gosh, it's just the assessments going up. There's not much we can do about that. And maybe they nick off a penny or two here to throw the dog a bone. But they basically acted like they were a victim of market conditions. And yet when it went in the other direction, they put out their hands and say, stop, we need this money. This is a dishonest. There is no truth in that method of taxation.
Absolutely not. And they don't tell the people the whole story. They just tell them the part. We're going to build this new library. Not too many people know there's going to be a whole floor in that new library sitting empty. Well, we're paying for an empty floor. We could have used that money for something else. And then we're going out and we're borrowing money in the new bond act, $16 million. Is this the economy where you would go out and borrow on your new home? No, of course
Absolutely not. We're talking with Jim Stern. He's the chair of the Albemarle Truth in Taxation Alliance, online at albemarletruth in taxation.org. When we get back, we'll take your calls at 977-1070. I also want to talk about the cost per government employee in Albemarle County and what's behind that. What are these platinum benefits that are being handed out by the government, so-called stewards of your tax dollars? 977-1070, the number. The Schilling Show and Jim Stern back right after this. 977-1070 is the phone number of the Albemarle Truth and Taxation Alliance, represented here in studio today by its chairman, Jim Stern, online at albemarletruthandtaxation.org. Before we get into the numbers here and the per property basis that we're going to be talking about residential properties, I did want to give you the opportunity to invite people to join you in your work with ADA. Tell us how they can do so.
Absolutely. Thank you. We're always looking for people to volunteer, and even if you're at home, you don't need to come to a meeting, you don't need to come to a place, you can contact me. Actually, I'll give my phone numbers. The easiest way is 434-960-9506, or I'm truthintaxation@yahoo.com. That should be easy enough for people to remember. If you contact me during the budget analysis last year, we had 12 people at home. Just email them, and they print it out, and they do their analysis and email you back, and it was wonderful. You don't need to come to a meeting or show your face.
There's a lot of really analytical minds and people who have a good understanding of this community who are looking for things to do. So I would encourage you right now, if that's you, that you would get involved in this effort, because believe me, things are going to get a lot worse before they get better in this country, and better to start now than to wait till we're facing utter and abject catastrophe.
And speaking of starting now, I'd like to get out there that the budget season has actually already begun. And by the time we get to public comment in February, March, April, it's a done deal. What you say means nothing. The budget calendar began August 3rd, and the first big meeting, October 10th, departmental budget presentations and the Board of Supervisors School Board compensation meeting. And we knew last year what the compensation was going to be, what the raises were going to be. And this whole thing from the teachers saying, or the superintendent saying, we need 2% for our teachers. It was 1%. That was the directive. You knew that's what it was going to be. That was all just a ruse. I'm fighting for you teachers. No, you were told in this meeting what it was going to be, and they're not going to change their minds. That's how much money we have. It's going to be a 1% raise. So that was all just a charade.
Well, I think there's an awful lot of that goes on, of people showing up, and they put a school up on the chopping block and then show up, and the white knight shows up and says, let me rescue you and take you away on the horse here. Just vote for me, and I'll make sure that your school stays open. And we see this played out year in and year out, created crises, and then somebody to the rescue.